Welcome back to Ask Arna. I've shared with you many times that my life's purpose is to bring art and healing together. And I do this to help people really get to hear their soul through an artistic process. Well, recently I had the opportunity to meet Michelle, who is an instructor in SoulCollage. I found this to be an incredible intuitive technique, and it really brought me to my soul, where through healing images, which I've spoken to with you about the power of the healing image, I learned so much, and it really gave my soul a voice. So now, with great honor, I'd love to share the technique of SoulCollage that you can do in your own home.
Well, what I love about the soul collage process is the ease of availability for the tools. You simply need some images from a magazine, a calendar, gift cards, anything like that that you receive in the mail. You need a pair of scissors and some glue and something to glue it onto. Traditionally, soul collagers use the 5x8 mat board card, which you can get online. But I have heard of collagers that recycle CDs and put the imagery on there. As long as you just maintain the same size for every card you create, you can get very resourceful in what you glue these images on. Soul collage absolutely does give your soul a voice, and it gives yourself a creative expression that is friendly for all levels of creativity, even those who think they aren't artistic in any way. It's a wonderful blend of creativity and intuition. Okay, I have some handy tools that I like to use for collaging. They're easily accessible pretty much in any craft or even office supply store. The glue that I use is just an archival safe glue, so it's gonna last for you. And I just happen to use a square shaped one because it's really easy to use, but it's certainly not the one that you have to use. I would just make sure you pick an archival safe glue. And one of my favorite tools in SoulCollage is the finger-held X-Acto blade that you see me using. You slip your finger through it and push down, and it's really a nice way to cut nice, straight, clean edges for your backings and any image material that goes off the edge of the card. It's a nice, clean cut for your card. Scissors, regular everyday good paper scissors, and if you want to get fancy with the scissors, you can get the little decorative edge scissors, which are kind of fun to use, or the precision tip scissors. You will have noticed that I took time to cut out the butterfly image instead of just leaving it with the white space behind it. We call that blessing the image, and that's when you take your time, and it's almost a meditative process when it's really detailed imagery that you're cutting around. And I like to really take my time and do that because it really makes a difference in the card, and it's another reflection of how you see yourself. You have to remember each card you make is a part of you that you're putting out there. The blessing of the butterfly is just a private moment where you're just really focused on cutting out the details, and that was not even quite as detailed as some other images that you would come across in people's cards, where there's lots of little spikes or threads that are pulling out, and you'll notice that they take the time to cut around those and include them in the image, as opposed to cutting off the antenna or cutting off the little featherling that's sticking out, cutting off including the fingers and the toes and things. It really brings such depth to the cards that you make, which is a great reflection of how you're using the cards. Well, next I played around with some smaller images. I wanted to add a couple little visual elements to the card. As I mentioned before, this was kind of an intuitive card for me. I didn't have any plan ahead of time. I was just creating a card that looked pleasing to me in its composition and color. And so I had pre-cut some images that I've been carrying around, hoping to add to the card, like the little Pegasus that I added at the end. For some reason, I really wanted that image in that card, and it hasn't fit in so many cards, and I think it works in this card, so that's why I wanted to add that one in there. The Pegasus image, it's interesting because when you are really drawn to an image and you really want to include it in the card, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Most times it didn't. Today was the day it did. And it has a certain reaction to it. When I looked at it independently, it kind of represents a freedom and just a go for it kind of feeling, just a feeling of flight, just taking the chance and leaping into the air and relying on your wings. But it might come out and have a completely different guidance for me now that it's in this card. It has a home in this card now. So I'm really curious actually to do a reading with the card in the future to see what the ultimate messages for me at that moment will be. I think SoulCollage can be a very sacred and private process. After all, it's this deep and personal reflection of you. It's the inner part of you reflecting and being presented outwardly in these images on these cards that we're creating. So I do like to create somewhat of a sacred feel to my workshops and in my personal space when I'm creating cards, and especially when you're doing readings with your cards. And that involves having things that are important to you, as if you would have a personal altar at home where you put your favorite nature finds, or a candle, or anything that resonates with you on an almost spiritual level. Those are the kind of items that I like to have near me and with me when I'm creating and reading my cards. Well, this is the exciting part for me. Definitely the creating of the cards is a fun process. But the goal of SoulCollage is to read your cards, read your cards. And the more frequently you read with your cards, your intuition grows, and the way you use them evolves, because there are so many different ways to read your cards and use them. So that's where you really start to see the benefits of the SoulCollage process, is when you start reading your cards and getting to know them, because you're getting to know parts of yourself. So I mentioned earlier that this card was happy after I added my final embellishment to it, and meaning when I say that the card is happy, meaning that it's happy to finally be acknowledged and have a place in my deck, and a place that's now representing part of me. So because cards will have both a shadow side and a light side, and you'll get a feel for which side a card is initially for you, but every card that you read does have both, because too much of a good thing is not always such a great thing. And when you don't acknowledge those shadow parts of yourself, they're just going to keep coming through you, through life experience or anything that's giving you a challenge in your life. And when you start to acknowledge those shadow parts of yourself through shadow type cards, you really kind of give them a voice, and they are then happy to be acknowledged, and they kind of back down a little bit, and we really benefit from their guidance. So when I do a reading with my cards, I like to create a nice, sacred, almost a ceremonial space. At home, I have more personal items around. It's almost like a little personal altar that I mentioned earlier. You might have things from nature in there. You're gonna have collections of these things that really resonate with you and spiritually move you, perhaps. And here at the studio, we try to create the same space here, because we do a lot of group readings as well. So we always have a candle lit. Oftentimes we'll play beautiful music in the background. I always have my little feathers with me. And you always want to include in your reading, if you have them, the 3 cards that you will eventually include in your SoulCollage deck. That these 3 cards will hold space for every reading that you ever do. and you might only have one of them or all three of them, but eventually you'll end up with 3 of these specific transpersonal cards that you never read, but they're there to hold space for the cards that you do read. So I'd like to share with you the card I just created. The second main part of SoulCollage, kind of the backbone of SoulCollage, is the I am one who process when you're learning to read your cards and regularly reading with your cards. And again, we're blending creativity and your intuition, because you're going to be tapping into your imagination now and becoming the voice of this card. You've created a card. You've just created one of the voices or personalities that's within you. So we want to give this card voice, and there's a personality or theme or energy, however you want to relate to it. There is one unique voice for every card. So I'm going to use my imagination, and I'm going to go within this card and become the voice of one of these images that I'm drawn to. So it could be the ocean, could be the people, the butterfly, the Pegasus, the roller coaster. You kind of get the idea. I am one who is abandoned. I am one who used to thrill people. I am one who is partially hidden. I am one who is long forgotten and not maintained. I am one who echoes with memories. And you keep doing this until it's a natural end for you. And for just getting to know the card, since I didn't have an open-ended question in particular in mind, I would continue or close the reading by saying, my gift to you is, and again, this is the card, this is the image speaking to me in its own voice, saying, my gift to you is to cherish those memories, realize that even though parts of you are unseen or hidden, they are still part of the foundation that is what is shown above. My message to you today through SoulCollage is to definitely find it within yourself, to give the process a try. Most everyone I know is intuitively drawn to images already. Images are very, very powerful, and they're very powerful beacons to us. So follow that. Sit a moment with an image, make a card with it if you want, and see how it speaks to you, because I think that it really opens up and allows you to tap into this unlimited pool of intuitive knowledge that we all have within us. So definitely jump in and try it. That would be my message.
What a powerful process. Healing images and intuition together are a dynamite team to the healing process and to really be able to listen to your soul's inner voice. I will have more postings coming up on Ask Arna Healing Journeys. Thank you for watching my YouTube Ask Arna channel, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button right below.